Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to do stuff. I remember back in a long time ago, there was a movie that came out called Willow that George Lucas had done, and he had an open contest for people to submit things for them to come in and be able to be a kid and put my things that I made in a box and send it to George Lucas to see if I could get into, go see Skywalker Ranch or something. Was pretty exciting. So it's always kind of been with me. I've always done artwork. I've airbrushed, I do digital artwork, and this really is kind of a natural extension of where I came from. My father was a historical reenactor, very interested in lots of things. So as a kid growing up, we were doing Mountain Man reenacting, and then it moved on to French and Indian War reenacting, and we used to do as kids with him with his historical stuff. Now it's just fantasy based, and this is kind of my jam. So when my youngest was actually old enough to put a controller in his hand, he and I spent hours just playing Halo. And then Reach came along. And Reach was about the same time that I actually kind of got started here, because I was really into playing that game a lot. I'd met a bunch of people online through Xbox Live and had a little group of folks that I was regularly playing with, and that was really just kind of a core friendship group of people that I would sit around and play with in the evenings. And then when my buddy turned me on to Pepakura, and I thought, well, maybe I might like to see if I could find a model for my helmet. And lo and behold, there's this place. It's called the 405th, and they've got everything I need to build something. I was like, I got to do this. This is just, So I started telling my buddies, I'm going to build this suit of armor. And they're like, yeah. Well, it did take me 3 years, but I finally got it done. And it's kind of where it started for me. So I do a lot of traveling for my job, and the crew that I was running around with, playing with a lot on Halo Reach, I actually was pretty fortunate enough to meet a few of those guys. And then when I went to Dragon Con in this suit for the first time, one of the guys who was on the 405th site, Mr. Stephen Lee, goes by Hyperballistic. He actually had made this helmet and molded it and was selling it for a while, and had been kind of encouraging me through the forums. With that group of folks, I'd got to know him and some of his other friends, and so they have a regular meetup place that they do every year at Dragon Con, and so I showed up for the first time, and it's like everybody was like, hey, Robert, here you are, and I was like, what? You guys don't know me? And they're like, they did. They knew who I was, they knew my project, they knew what I've been working on, and from there on, it's been nothing but just nonstop friends. I have got people all over the world that I talk to now that, because of my fandom, I've made friends all over the place. I've learned a lot.
The core group that puts on Comic-Con is through the University of Alabama, and we are part of, a lot of our staff members are from a club there called the Bama SOS Brigade. So part of preparing for Comic-Con is trying to recruit new members to the club and introduce them to Comic-Cons, show them the ropes.
I always loved dressing up, and I did as a kid and I did as a teenager. And I didn't know about cosplay up until 2009 when I saw it on YouTube. Some people going to a convention, Comic-Con, and dressing up. I was like, whoa, it's really cool.
I'd say just being able to dress up and pretend to be somebody else, even if it's just for a weekend. Get away from real life and just have fun.
Just making all sorts of friends and getting to meet all sorts of people that I wouldn't necessarily have met without cosplaying. And just kind of having that ability to break the ice by knowing that you like the same series and that you're cosplaying from the same series. And kind of that feeling of unity that you get from everybody cosplaying from the same series and kind of getting along.
And that's really, for me, kind of what all of this is about. It's a growing learning experience that, there's people in the community that are willing to teach things. They're not trying to hold all their tips and tricks of the trade for themselves. They want to better the other people that are out there as well, which is why this community has grown. The costume community in the last several years has just gotten huge.
Probably being able to work with my brother and sister-in-law and really have it not only as a family opportunity, but also to be able to travel with them and, you know, make sure that I stay connected with them, because it seems like so much of families get kind of distant and split apart, and, you know, they stop living together.
I was as the Joker, and someone came up to me with a baby in a Batman costume and wanted to take their picture with me. I was like, oh, I couldn't resist. It was a special moment, and I'll never forget it.
Anime Week in Atlanta several years back, I was dressed up as Oku from the Toho Project, and it has a big set of black wings, probably about 11-foot wingspan. This little girl had seen pictures of me from another convention online, and her mom happened to be going to the convention, took her, didn't think that they were going to see me. She saw me, she ran from her mom and gave me a giant hug. So I was like, okay, well, that takes the cake.
I didn't know it at the time who it was, but there was a fellow who came up to me, and he was just sitting there just staring at my armor and going all over it. And when he got done, I was talking to another lady about some stuff that she was working on. She was trying really hard to be done with a costume by a certain time. And so this guy stood there, and he just kind of patiently waited. And after he got done, he came up to me. He was like, man, that's really incredible. I'm just blown away. You know, you've got lights in this thing and all this other stuff, because I have got lights. I had turned all the lights and everything on for it during the panel. Come to find out that this is an Academy nominated makeup artist who had done all of Johnny Knoxville's makeup work for Bad Grandpa. Really just amazing sculptor, prosthetics guy. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And here he is. He's just like, dude.
Season 7, my first year as Kosho, I had a vest and a tunic and like arm warmer and leg warmers and a skirt piece and this massive cape and these wings and like all of these pieces. And we had a problem with the logistics of my cape because I had it snap on the shoulders so that we wouldn't have any sort of like ties or things like messing with the look of the cape.
We've been working on it off and on since June. I would say in total we've probably put a good 500 to 600 hours into this thing.
The hardest costume I had to make was for the Mad Pierrot costume, because what I had to do was to make a spherical body, and the only thing I had at the time was chicken wire. So I had to, and with gloves, and still poked my hands repeatedly, form this chicken wire into a suit that I could put fabric over and then slide into.
And to that, though, you know, with more people doing this, come some negatives. You know, there's been a lot of issues with people shaming people in the community over gender or weight or things of that nature, and those are not the things that myself I want to see and hear from a community of people that are really come together to be inclusive. I mean, we come to do this because we want to be part of something, not because we want to be ostracized. You know, to be a nerd. You know, these days, you know, I'm a comic book guy. I've been doing comic book art and things of that nature since I was a kid, and to try to find a place that's really like when you walk in a room and you're in this stuff and everybody's like, oh, you've arrived. You know, it's like people, you're among your people at that point.
Well, I certainly have received a little bit of pushback. I know definitely from people that were older than me, like my parents' age, they kind of didn't understand it. But what I really did was I showed them just how much work goes into it and just how much, you know, effort and pride goes into all the costumes. I sat them down and showed them pictures of, you know, the first costumes that we made to the ones that we made today, and kind of illustrated just how much passion goes into our hobby. And you're tying it to things that they like to do as a kid. You know, whether it was go romping through the woods or, you know, go hunting. It was a way that I could bridge that gap between, you know, people that may have had a negative look on us compared to those who accepted it.
Cosplay is different for everyone, and that's one of the things I really like about it, because for some people it's more about putting the costume on, and they can order their costume from China and put it on, and it just makes their day to be like, I look like Ruby Rose, like I'm so excited. Some people it's all about the craftsmanship, and it's less about like pretending to be the character and more about like, look at this super complicated prop that I built. And I love the versatility of the hobby, how it can mean different things to different people.
And I would say try, because if you never put yourself out there, you'll never know. You'll always wonder why. You'll always wonder if you could have done better, and you'll never know because you never put it out there in the first place. So I would say at least try. Give it a shot.
Probably the best thing is that when you're starting out, don't get discouraged. Yeah, you're going to walk into somebody who has, giant set of Warbler armor bigger than this one.
A reminder that cosplay is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you dress, or how you act on the outside. The cosplay community really is a nice community to be a part of. And I would strongly encourage anybody who wanted to start cosplaying to start cosplaying. You don't have to have the most fancy costume. You don't have to have lights. It doesn't even have to look spectacular, but go out and just start cosplaying because it is a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people, you get to play around a lot, and you wind up having fun even if you don't try to.